Hi everyone, I'm Zac Greenberg with Musicians for Health, co-founder of Musicians for Health and host of Brain Food. Today we have the amazing, talented arts educator Pam Kravetz with us. Thank you so much for being here and for bringing these beautiful friends behind you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I love to. So my name is Pam Kravetz. I'm an artist and art educator in Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised, never left. Occasionally I do go to Northern Kentucky if I get on the wrong bridge and end up there, but I pretty much am a hometown girl. I love my city and I love being a community advocate for the arts in our city. On my website, I'm going to read this because I'll forget it. But on my website, it says, Pam Kravetz. She's a mural making, street painting, quilt sewing, yarn bombing, curating, flash mobbing, tutu wearing, rootin' tootin' art monster. So my resume pretty much incorporates all that, from teaching to art making to curating. I'm part of a yarn bombing, which is graffiti art with knitting and crochet, shells. I'm part of an artist collective called the Polyester Spy Club. And so just, art, it is who I am. It's not only what I do, but that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, and I can say as a personal friend that all rings very, very true. So I know that you also do a lot of amazing outreach stuff with very different demographics, from a lot of kids stuff all the way through to a lot of different variations of our community. Can you talk a little bit about some of those and how they've been received?
Yeah. I was super lucky that I didn't start teaching until I was 30. It was, the career I was meant for, but I never quite knew that. It took me a while to figure out that that's what I should be doing. So I did lots of other things before that. And so I've been a high school art teacher for almost 30 years, taught a little elementary school in there as well. I've been a project manager and I'm on the board of Artworks, which is a Cincinnati group that is a nonprofit that hires artists and apprentices to create art and murals and things like that. So I've had the lovely pleasure of doing that. And then I also have done numerous things for Children's Hospital in the art related things. And then also, I'm just like a big community gatherer of other like-minded humans. So a lot of times what I do is I use art as the vehicle to help fundraise for various organizations. Art is one of the things that connects us all. It's a common language, and it brings the soul and the heart to whatever it is that that I'm working with. So, for example, the Human Rights Campaign, Caracal, Visionary Voices, which is outsider artists, visionary artists group in Cincinnati. So that's a lot of the things I guess that I've done and been part of.
Yeah. And that speaks so much to the arts community, I feel, in Cincinnati as a whole, as you're talking about that and your past and your present and just your relationship with the community. Seems like something that I find in Cincinnati a lot more, of course, New York's got its like diehards and, LA, but Cincinnati, it seems like the connection to its community and its artists has always been something really special, especially in the last 10 years, 5 years. It's been beautiful to see.
I 100% agree. I've always said that, it's like if you have an idea, if you have a passion, if you have an interest, you will find the person that will help fund it or the people that will work with you to make your voice louder and more amplified. And I feel like it's a small town, Cincinnati, with a big heart. Yeah. And the thing that I also find, and I could be super naive, and if I am, I want to continue to be naive because I like the way this feels, that we're not competitive with each other.
Yeah.
We elevate and support each other as artists, musicians. And so that feels like home. It feels great.
Yep.
I like now that I have been given a lot of wonderful, wonderful opportunities to create, like for Blink, the installation we worked on together, Dazzle Doodles, House of Fun. And so I love that now I can help other artists to do the same.
Yeah.
And I feel that is Cincinnati's wonderful legacy in the arts.
Yeah, I think that speaks a lot on, yeah, I totally agree. And I feel that a lot in Cincinnati, that individuals are focused on themselves, but more with the intention of bringing the community up as a whole, both the arts community and then how that can really help heal and grow the larger Cincinnati community as a whole. And and that kind of gets into something that we had touched on the other day when we were talking about this interview, which was that as artists, I think a lot of us are feeling kind of drained and empty right now. And, you know, seeing there's so much going on. And so it's been really important to try to find some alternative ways to engage with that. And I was curious for you as an arts educator, especially for young artists who are maybe feeling, you know, they haven't really been able to leave home in a while and are feeling creatively blocked. What might be some good resources or ideas for younger artists to be able to try to find some inspiration in this crazy world right now?
Okay, that's a really great question, and something that I personally have struggled with through this time. I create, like, just, you know, I create with community. I create with other artists. My art and my voice and my narrative thrives through interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been a person that wants to sit alone. I do this. They're in a studio and they work, you know, 12 hours a day and all that, and it's a beautiful process for them. That's never been my way. And so I personally, my creativity has been very much stifled, and it feels a little sad sometimes. And I also am not a good person of giving myself grace and allowing myself time and space. That's not, I fill everything in. I, like, even when I teach drawing to high school kids, I'm not a negative space person. And negative space is the space behind the objects. My kids, I'm always like, too much negative space. Get rid of that. So even my, you know, my visual, my teaching, everything is like more, you know? So for me to like be doing that has been a struggle. And so kind of like we were talking about, Zach, I started this thing. I'm not very good in the kitchen, and I used to bake because it was pretty. And so somebody asked me to do a thing on quarantine cooking, and so I decided to bake ridiculous cupcakes with handmade sprinkles.
Oh.
So, which are stupid. Yeah, but they're stupid. I mean, you can just buy it, you know. I'm like, darn it. I found that what I started doing with this, somebody gave me like a prompt, basically. And so I found what I did is I started to create a composition with the broken eggs and the cake box. And then I started to write a story about these ridiculous sprinkles and why it was important and all that stuff. So I feel like as artists right now, and a lot of the artists I've talked to, is we're finding other ways, not our normal practice, not the pieces you see behind me, not drawing, not sculpture, but finding other ways to express ourselves as a visual artist visually. And a lot of what I also did recently that felt super good, I have to have a story. I have to have a something I need to tell. Like I'm not an artist that makes art, you know, unless there's some deep, guttural, heart-wrenching story I got to tell. And so it was my birthday.
Yeah.
And
happy birthday again.
Thank you. One of those quarantine, you know, crazy birthdays.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell the story of, you know, we've lost so much, and so much has been lost through the quarantine. And me celebrating my birthday seems so minimal. And but I wanted to tell the story of loss and losing celebrations. And so I created a mask and I created a party hat and had this photo shoot 10 feet away, more than 10 feet away. And my husband was a unicorn, because to me, the unicorn is just like that symbol of possibilities. So we had this silly shoot that made me feel like, okay, I've got a story and I'm telling it. This isn't my normal way of telling a story, but I'm doing it. I'm creating. For resources, what I've done, and a lot of people have been sending me, which has been great. I follow people on Instagram. I mean, I am into the social media thing, not, more of the images and, and going through that rabbit hole of like, what is this artist doing and how are they creating right now? And kind of trying to find like-minded humans that I can connect to that way. Resources specifically, I would love to know some. So I would be open to reading or hearing about other artists' practice, but mine is just been a little bit of a, pulling my own self up and then also giving myself grace and saying, you know what, today's not your day. You're just gonna have to chill, and you're just gonna have to let yourself watch Netflix for 12 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
I also had to give students, teach high school, them that same grace and just say, I get it, I know this is hard. So today, if you're not going to make something, or tomorrow, it's really okay. It's going to be okay. Which I think is hard for us. We want to produce. So my things, I would say personally, find another way of telling your story or creating, and put yourself out there. And I take tap dance lessons, which I've been wanting to do on Zoom. So I'm a visual artist that's now trying to learn to tap dance, which is really hard. Super easy. But so that's the way I think that I'm coping with this, is trying to find other ways to tell stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
And beautiful. And I think, I also think the point that it seemed like you were talking around too, which was trying to find space because I know me personally, I've definitely been very aware that it's really the emotional drain that I think is really draining a lot of my creativity.
Right.
So it seems like part of what I'm hearing is being able to find space to nurture that fragility and creativity, and it can be so easy as artists to turn to our art to make us feel better, to say, oh, I'm just going to put it out on the page, or I'm just going to rock it. But to be able to be a little more gentle, it seems like, with our art and our creativity, and give it the respect and space to heal and grow. And because it's changing right now as artists, I think it would be very difficult to come out of this experience the same artist you went in. For any artist, there's just, it's a different world and different experience, and we're different people going into a different civilization and community.
Exactly. And we were just kind of talking about that a little bit earlier, and just that my work is tactile. I want you to touch it. I want you to interact. I always say it comes to life when the viewer interacts with it. It's otherwise it's just pieces on a wall. And how do I talk about that? Because I still want people to feel like they can be part of my art and they can touch it. And so it's like even challenges of just figuring out, what does it look like in a space now? And what is that space? Yeah. Is it a gallery? Is it outside? Is it,
are we going into the,
Oh, that would work. Right. But I think you used a couple words and they resonate with me very well, but the fragility, and then you also said a couple other words that just made me feel like, it's like artists are souls, that's their beauty. And, when the world is hurting, we're hurting. And to kind of be that sign of hope and that sign of heart that artists bring to life is difficult. And I think there's a lot of pressure on us too as artists.
Yeah.
And even when you look at things through the pandemic, where people are painting rainbows on their sidewalks, or You know, in Italy, when you see people singing outside their windows and all of that, it's the arts. It's the arts that are bringing us back to humanity and back to seeing who we are. And it's not necessarily the trained artists either. It's a lot of just people
Yeah.
expressing themselves. So it's a gift we have, and it's also a role we play in the world, and I love being part of that.
Yeah. And I think, again, part of what I'm hearing is like that as an artist, I know for myself, and I think a lot of my friends would agree, that we feel a certain level of responsibility for, almost for
Yes.
lack of a better term, like the mental health almost of the world,
Yes.
of like, you know, creating this atmosphere where on individual basis is, of course, but even on this bigger basis of just kind of creating this combating force against a lot of the negativity happening, or in a
Right.
way, or a way to view that negativity and put it into perspective. And so I think it can get overwhelming, especially in this sort of time of, again, feeling like we need to create more and more and push all of that, and we're weak if it can't happen, or like we're not good artists, or like we're not deserving.
Exactly. Right.
When that
And
just
two,
anything.
yeah, no, and two, that, you know, a lot of artists are gig workers. So a lot of artists are not only dealing with, you know, a creative block, but they're also dealing with, how do I pay my bills? Or do I have to work in a situation that might not be safe for my health to pay my bills? And so it's like all of these layers and layers and layers. And you know, and it's like, how do we come out of this, and how do we support each other? And yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And I think that also we need to allow ourselves that space to be overwhelmed and sad and feeling isolated and all of that. And
Yeah.
but what I'm seeing now is people like figuring this out. It's like we kind of this time, and now we're like, okay, now we're going to figure this out. And how are we communicating? How are we telling stories? How are we getting art out there? And you know, so I feel like we're starting to just climb back up. And yeah, and the responsibility is huge.
And
Yeah, we're the
something I've been thinking about it in these terms too is this balance system as artists that's so important to us, about influence and output, right? And like having time to be able to, right now that we have so much information and so many levels coming into all of our different senses, and all of our, from physically to mentally to spiritually. And if this is super heavy, it's really hard. Like we need time to process all of that information. It's hard to, without letting the balances tip, you know, try to push the creativity when our, so much of the focus right now is processing just all of this and figuring out what to create, because we're overloaded. We're Atlas holding up this whole world of new influence and like everything.
That's a great, or well, what is, okay, just because you said Atlas, what is the guy that pushes the rock up the hill and it keeps coming back down? Who's he?
Sisyphus.
Not Icarus.
Sisyphus.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We're Sisyphus pushing the rock up, and like every step we take, we're trying to, you know, but we need to deal with the first step. I feel like is a big part of it, instead of trying to skip, as we tend to do in our culture, through and not need to process, you know. And as artists, that's a big part of our responsibility, is making sure people, for trying to help people understand being able to slow down and process information, and how that can really benefit the whole.
Yeah.
It can definitely be overwhelming. So, well, thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts and your energy, Pam. Thank you for being with us. Below will be some links and any information, and whatever platforms, this will be on some different platforms. So whichever they are, I would love and highly encourage anybody who has any thoughts about what we've talked about, or any other suggestions of things they've found to be helpful that they think might be helpful for other people and other artists at this time. Feel free to post and add links and all the different things, because we're all in this together. So
good. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you so much. And I can't wait till we can go play with some art soon.
I know, me too. Me too.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you again, Pam.